So years ago, I remember my truck breaking down on me, and it did it quite a bit. Just being stressed out, losing sleep, trying to figure out where I'm gonna come up with the cash to be able to pay for the repairs. I remember living check to check, and every other week my bank account was getting overdrafted. My problem wasn't that my truck was breaking down on me. It wasn't that I had a big unexpected bill that came through. What my problem was is I didn't have an emergency fund. I didn't have cash set to the side for when something like that happens. I wasn't prepared. And you know, now that I have a problem that comes up, it's more of a minor inconvenience instead of a big crisis. So in this video, I'm going to be getting into why you need an emergency fund, how much you should save, where to keep it, and when to use it. Okay, so why do you need an emergency fund? It might be obvious, but if you have something unexpected that comes up, like a big bill, your tire pops on your car, or you got to go to the hospital and you don't have that money, you're going to have to borrow it from somewhere. You might have to use a credit card. You might have to take out a bank loan, all with high interest, and it's going to set you back financially, you know, worse than you were before if you just had cash. Let's say that you end up losing your job, and you're going to have to go through that whole process of updating your resume, putting in applications, and going through the interviewing process. You know, it might take you a month, even 2 months before you finally find another job. It's important to ask yourself, are you going to be able to pay the bills, put food on the table, and just be able to make it in that meantime? If you want a shot at building wealth, an emergency fund is the core foundation to your personal finances. Having a 3 to 6 month emergency fund on the sidelines helps buy you time, helps you focus on fixing that problem that came up, on finding that new job. And it takes a lot of worry off of your shoulders when you know that you have that cushion on the sidelines. So now that you know why you need an emergency fund, let's get into how much you should save. So generally, the advice out there is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. I would say if you're just starting off and you only have $200 in your account, I would cut everything out of my budget. It's not going to be fun, but you need to get to $1,000 as soon as possible. That way, at least you'll be able to cover the smaller emergencies that are bound to come your way eventually. You want to be able to have just a bit of a buffer zone, right? And once you get to that $1,000, I would work my way up to 3 months worth of expenses. For me, that's a bare minimum that you need to have just on the sidelines. That way you can take those bigger hits, those bigger unexpected bills like your car breaking down or losing a job. You'll be able to go 3 months and still be able to pay the bills with a 3-month emergency fund. Now, I wouldn't just stop there. You might ask, how do I know if I should have a 3-month, 6-month, even a year's worth of emergency funds? Well, I think that comes down to your personal responsibilities and the amount of risk that you have in your life. It's personal finances, and you kind of need to go over your own stuff and decide what's right for you. Let's say, for example, you have a guy and he's living with a roommate, splitting the bills. He's got a paid off car, stable job, little to no debt. I would say that's a very low risk, low responsibility scenario compared to another guy that's married and is one income marriage. He's got kids. He's got people to take care of. His risk is going to be a lot higher than the first guy. So I would definitely recommend in that situation, when you have more risk and responsibilities, to have a bigger emergency fund. I would be shooting for a 6 month to a year's worth of money on the sidelines. That way you're covered and the people that you take care of are going to be okay. So once you decide your risk and your responsibilities and you kind of figure out what your number is that you want to shoot for, what you're going to want to do is you're going to go through your expenses for a whole month and you're going to see what you have to pay for and everything else. Keep it down to necessities. You know, leave a little bit of room for some nicer things, small expenses like coffee or treats here and there, so it's not absolutely miserable while you're going through hardship. But you want to really keep it down to necessities. Once you figure out how much it's going to cost you in a span of a month, you're going to want to multiply that by the amount of months that you decide to go with for your emergency fund. That way you can get your number and you can start working your way towards that. And before I move on, once you hit that goal, I would not overdo it with the amount of money that you save. Once you hit that goal, I would stop, because any extra money that you have past that point really needs to be out there working for you. It needs to be invested and earning money, because your invested money over the long term is going to pay you way more than most likely your 9-to-5 will. So you really just don't want to overdo it. You want to have that money working for you past your emergency fund goal. My name's Cable. I hope everyone's having a great day. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I would just ask for you to consider hitting the subscribe button if you got any value out of this video and you want to see future content just like this about personal finances. Okay, now that you have your emergency fund and you have your goal and you're going to save up to that, let's get into where to keep it. So I personally use an online high yield savings account to keep my emergency fund there. That way it's earning me a little bit of money on the side. You know, the point of it is to be easily accessible. You don't want it locked down somewhere and you don't want it invested, right? You want to be able to easily use it in the case of an emergency. But you also want to be able to earn a little bit of interest on that on the side to protect it against inflation and just to grow it as time goes on. Now, if you didn't know, banks, they loan out your deposits that you give to them and they pay you a small amount of interest off of it. Don't be that person that goes down to your local bank on the corner and gets paid 0.01% interest on your cash. You don't want to do that. You want to find an online bank that they can easily pay up to 3 to 4% interest. And now that's going to be a lot better than your local bank. Okay, so when can you use your emergency fund? You got to ask yourself, is it urgent, unexpected? Does it need to be fixed right now? If the answer is yes, then go ahead and use your emergency fund. That's what it's there for. It's not there to be a trophy on the shelf where you just stare at it and feel good about it. It's there for emergencies. It's there so you don't have to borrow money, you don't have to pay interest or use credit cards, right? And you also want to ask yourself, well, can I cancel that trip that I was going to make this month to be able to pay for that bill? You know, you don't want to have to use your emergency funds if you can cut something out of your budget, because that's your foundation. You want to keep that there. If you do end up spending from that, then you want to make it a priority to get it back to the same levels that it was beforehand. That way you're always protected and you have that cushion for when that bad day comes. Building your emergency fund isn't going to be a grand time. It's not going to be fun. You're going to have to sacrifice some of them short-term things to be able to build it up. You really got to ask yourself, why do I want to do this? Why is this important to me? You need to have a strong enough why. You need to know that I'm doing this to build my financial foundation. I'm doing this to protect myself. You're doing it so you're not stressed out and worried and losing sleep the next time that unexpected thing comes up, because it's gonna come up. So just make sure that you set yourself up for success. You know your why. And I wish you guys the very best of luck. Thank you for watching this video up until this point. And I hope you guys have a great day.